we're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Thursday, July 30th here in Seoul. I'm Isujin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Melissa.
Good to be here.
Good to have you also tunes with us.
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So we're now heading toward the end of the work week, which means many of us are probably already thinking about one thing, finally getting home and putting our feet up. But in Korea, even the idea of home can come with a lot of different realities. And with housing prices continuing to rise, where and how people live has become an increasingly important part of everyday life and even a reflection of their priorities and financial situation. So today, let's take a look at the different ways people are making a home here in Korea today. And starting with our panelists, Melissa, what type of housing do you live in? Like, what does your housing situation look like currently?
I'm living in my family apartment and my parents bought it, so we own it. But the best part is I'm living alone because my parents are living overseas right now.
Wow, and that big of a family.
Yeah. So I have this whole house all to myself. And since my work is fully remote, I spend a lot of my time at home. So because of that, being super comfortable and having everything I need is really important. And honestly, that's the beauty of living in a fully set up family house. I'll probably only start looking to buy my own place when I start a family of my own. But for now, I'm kind of living the dream.
You are. Your friends must love coming over.
They always come over.
Understandable. So what about you? What does it look like for you?
Well, I'm definitely an apartment person as well. Well, I lived and currently living in an apartment right now. I used to live with my parents, and also after getting married, I moved into another one. And I think I'll probably keep living in an apartment for the rest of my life as well. But why? It's so convenient. Everything is just in front of my doorstep. Well, right at my doorstep, everything I'm talking about, the supermarket, shops, clinics, private academies are just in front of our house and within the complex as well. So once you get used to all those kind of convenience, you can't get rid of it. You can't live without those systems. So yes, the apartment life has actually spoiled me a lot in a good way.
Right. I think a lot of people can relate to that. It's not just about having a place to live anymore. It's about having an entire community and almost everything you need right at your doorstep. And once you get kind of used to that kind of convenience, I can see why it'd be hard for anyone to give up. And I'm sure a lot of people, especially living here in Korea, can relate to this. And that's why we're going to talk more about this. But first, let's take a look at the screen. With apartment prices reaching record highs, a home in Korea has become much more than just a place to live. For many, it's increasingly seen as a symbol of social status, financial success, and even personal identity. And that's part of the reason why apartments are at the center of so many debates today. So today on News Generation, we explore Korea's changing housing landscape, what owning an apartment means for young people, and the recent controversy surrounding a celebrity who received a home through a special housing program. As you just saw in the video, the way Koreans view housing has changed quite a bit over the years. And one housing type in particular has come to dominate that landscape. So we talked about apartments earlier, and you also said you've only lived in apartments your whole life, as I have. But why have apartments specifically become so dominant in Korea's housing market?
Well, good question. Well, Korea has a large population relative to its land area. So as of 2024, around 8 out of every 10 homes in the country are forms of multi-unit housing, including apartments. Well, as you can see in here, the number of households living in apartments has continued to increase from 48.1% in 2015 to almost 54% in 2 years. Well, today, more than half of all Korean households live in apartments. On the other hand, fewer and fewer Koreans are living in detached homes. Well, detached homes are single family homes that stand on their own, unlike apartments. in the past, well, apartments began as an efficient housing solution designed to accommodate large numbers of people during Korea's period of rapid urbanization within limited land and high population density, because more people would like to live in the city rather than in the countryside. And today, apartments are more than just homes. Yes, apartment complexes have become all-in-one living spaces. They offer convenient access to public transportation, schools, parks, and commercial facilities, as well as a wide range of facilities within the complex itself. I'm talking about the swimming pool, fitness centers, as you can see, golf practice facilities, nursery care as well. At the same time, people now see apartments as investments, not just homes. As a result, home prices often depend on the neighborhood, the surrounding infrastructure. But here's what's interesting thing is, the opposite can happen as well. When a major construction company builds a big apartment, a branded apartment, a large branded apartment complex in an area, transportation, other things, transportation links, shops, schools, and private academies, other infrastructure, they follow. They are expanded and improved thanks to the newly built apartment. So in many cases, the apartment comes first and then the neighborhood follows.
And it's pretty clear from the footage. We saw swimming pools, like golf,
fitness centers.
There's everything in those, and it's usually the newer apartments that have those stuff, which is why, especially young people, they all want to live in those new apartments because of those amenities that you mentioned. And this is really interesting because apartments have clearly evolved also from simply being an efficient way to house a growing urban population into something much bigger, a complete lifestyle, and increasingly also a major financial asset. And that shift also changes what an apartment represents to people who want to actually own one. So what does an owning apartment mean to young Koreans these days?
Unlike the baby boomer generation, us MZs basically grew up in apartments. So living in an apartment is so natural for us. Back in December 2020, people in their 20s and 30s made up about 34% of all the apartment buyers nationwide. For us, owning an apartment is a huge flex. It's a symbol of both social status and real financial stability. But let's be real. With housing prices skyrocketing right now, buying an apartment is kind of impossible for most young people. That's why we turned to the housing subscription system called 청약. It's a system that selects buyers for newly built public or private housing using a point system or lottery, based on things like how long you've been without a home, your number of dependents, and your subscription account history. Since these homes are supplied way below the market price, it's basically seen as a golden ticket to owning a house.
Right, so for younger generations, an apartment can represent both stability and also social status because of how many people, such a high demand for these apartments. But with prices so high, actually buying one can feel out of reach. And that's where the housing subscription system that we mentioned, that's where it offers a potential opportunity. But that opportunity has also raised questions, but who can actually realistically benefit from the system? So why has Korea's housing subscription recently has come under fire? There has been some controversy, a lot of talk about it online. Why was this the case, June?
Well, Melissa just mentioned about it's a kind of a golden ticket, because it's way below the ordinary price. Well, a well-known celebrity in Korea recently made headlines after winning a housing apartment subscription system for a newly built apartment in Seoul's Gangnam-gu district. Well, again, a lottery system for buying newly built apartments. This controversy is largely due to the fact that new apartments in Gangnam-gu district are extremely expensive. As a result, many people believe that only those with substantial financial resources can realistically afford to buy one in the first place. Well, critics say that it's open to everybody. Apartment subscription system is technically open to everybody. It's a fair system. However, in reality, expensive homes favor wealthy buyers who can cover the contract payment and also the remaining balance as well. So, well, in other words, winning the lottery is only the first step. It might be exciting at the first step, but your bank account, it still has the final say.
You did a great job describing the situation, but it's really interesting how like it's so hard to get. It's a lottery. It's so hard to get that chance to buy the apartment. But the price itself is still
the remaining balance.
It's still high. It's lower than what it should be, but then it's still a very expensive amount.
Still expensive though.
Right. So the debate goes far beyond apartments themselves. Actually, it's really about who gets access to a secure and affordable place to call home. But is Korea's housing situation unique? So to find out, we'll hear from a young person overseas about what housing looks like for their generation and how they're navigating the challenges of finding a home. And that conversation will take place right after a break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
We're joined now by Nguyen, a young person from Vietnam who's here to give us a first-hand look at what the housing situation is like for young people there. So hello, thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Yeah, hello, thank you for having me today.
Right, Nguyen. So how difficult is it for young people in Vietnam to buy a home these days?
Well, I would say it's very difficult for young people in Vietnam to buy a house. The biggest reason is that housing prices have increased much faster than incomes. Like, for example, many young people earn around 10 to 15 million Vietnam dong a month, but a small apartment in a big city can cost between 3 and 5 billion Vietnam dong. So that means even if young people, they save money every month, it could still take them at least 20 or 30 years to buy a home. Yeah, so in reality, very few young people can actually afford a house by themselves. Most still need the financial support from their families or had to pay for their homes through the long-term mortgage. So yeah, I mean, yeah, owning a home is still just a dream for many young people in Vietnam.
After hearing the situation, I'm super curious. What are you doing to prepare for home ownership?
Well, for me, to be honest, I'm not really thinking about buying home yet because I'm still an international student. Right now, I just want to finish my study and find a stable job after graduation. But since housing prices are so high and it's very hard to buy a house in Vietnam, as I said above, I think for me, renting a place is a more realistic option for me at first. But yeah, but maybe in the future, when I have a good job or a steady income, I will think about buying a home. But I think I will probably still need the financial support from my family. Yeah.
I see. And then switching gears to different issues, like policy-wise, what kind of government support is available for home buyers in Vietnam? Any government programs for the first-time home buyers?
Yes, the Vietnamese government support the home buyers mainly through the social housing programs. Like low-income people and first-time home buyer who meet the requirements can apply for the social housing or get home loans with a low interest rate. So recently, the government has also introduced the policy to support people under the age of 35 who want to buy the social housing. Yeah, so I mean, although these policies are helpful, I think more support is still needed because, yeah, affordable housing is still limited for young people these days.
That's so interesting. I guess this issue of having a lack of affordable housing is something young people everywhere are struggling with. So thank you for sharing this with us and thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great day. Yeah.
Thank you.
You too. So we just heard from aspiring young homeowner from Vietnam about how difficult it is for young people to buy a home, how she's preparing for home ownership, and what kind of government support in Vietnam is available. And while housing is often discussed in terms of affordability and financial security in Korea, where you can live, can sometimes influence much more than your finances. So, Jiyeon, can where you live also affect your dating life here in Korea?
Absolutely. I'm going to introduce a very special and a unique application in Korea.
Wow,
this
an
is
application.
application. This is a dating application exclusively for the 20s and 30s who live in apartment complexes, only for those who live in apartments. So actually, people living in the same apartment complex have been going on blind dates thanks to their mothers for many years. But this app simply brings that idea online. So users must verify their address by submitting an official residence certificate issued by the government. And once approved, they can meet people who live in similar neighborhoods. Their Mr. Right, Ms. Right are just near their neighborhoods. So what's interesting is that even if the apartment is owned by their parents, not by themselves, they can still join as long as they live in that same apartment. So in fact, one of my friends who lived in a high-end apartment in a complex in Pampoku district, she actually met her husband through this system.
Wow. So I think we actually know someone who has succeeded.
That's right. They live in the same apartment complex. So yes, this is the thing for the apartment people. But well, people living in villas and office styles aren't eligible to sign up of this application at all. Well, FYI, villas are low-rise multi-housing homes, and office styles are mixed-use buildings designed for both living and office space as well. So sadly, these days, your address might be your introduction, the best introduction. I don't want to say that. Yeah, but
Right.
that's the truth. Yes.
But it's true. Like, I've seen people ask if someone's dating someone. One of the questions they ask is, where does your boyfriend or girlfriend live? So that's another sign of that. So this is quite a striking example of how housing can shape social relationships, not just where you live, but potentially who you meet, even who you might end up marrying, like Jiyeon's friend. And this isn't necessarily a completely new phenomenon either. So what changes how openly and systematically these kinds of connections are now being made? So why are these housing-based matchmaking services gaining so much traction these days?
These apps are going crazy. Since one of these matchmaking services launched in June, they've already gained over thousands of users.
That's a lot, wow.
Right? That's crazy. Honestly, at this rate, I feel like these kinds of apps are gonna go bigger than dating apps like Tinder or Hinge.
And I can see why. I mean, people want to meet people that live near them, right?
And it's not just about apps. In some exclusive high-end apartment complexes, parents are organizing meetups for their kids. It became so common that it's out in the open and basically operating like a full-on matchmaking agency, like 결정사, you call it in Korean. Actually, a friend of mine who lives in these fancy apartment complexes was working out at the apartment gym. And one day, this lady came up to him and asked him if he was single. And he was like, yeah, I'm single. And she was like, are you willing to meet up with this girl living in the same apartment complex?
Wow.
Isn't that so cool?
What is actually happening?
All of a sudden.
All of a sudden.
Oh my
And it was so professional to the extent that she gave him a business card as well.
So did he say yes to that, or?
He ended up not meeting though.
I see, but he's surprised that this is going on. So seeing the debate goes beyond whether apartments are affordable or not, so we're also asking whether the home you live in should influence how society sees you or even who you meet. And after everything we've discussed today, perhaps that's the biggest question of all. So after today's discussion, has your view of apartments changed? So what do you think a home in Korea represents today, Jiyeon?
Apartment view, perspective. Well, the thing is, yes, I have to admit, this is our reality. It's difficult to disagree with our reality. And well, this discussion, our talk today, made me reflect on myself because I often find myself searching for new apartments every single day, in fact, every single day. And also the redevelopment potential apartments as well here in Korea. Well, before I had children, the most important thing for me when I was searching for an apartment was the view, whether I can see the trees outside, whether it was blocked by another apartment, another building or not. But now, since I have two kids, infrastructure has become the top priority as well. Do they have good schools nearby? Parks, transportation system, is it all convenient? So infrastructure is the key now. And also these are the factors that affect the prices of the apartment. Of course, we talked about this earlier. So whether we like it or not, our address says more than about our lifestyles than ever before. So yes, at the end of the day, the best home isn't the one, the most expensive one. Well, I do believe that it's the one where my children can grow up happy, healthy, and safe.
Right, well said. So what are your thoughts on this?
Honestly, listening to our conversation today, it's already stressing me out so much. It really shows how hard it is to own a home in Korea right now. Instead of a home just being a place to relax and stay comfortable and chill, it feels like it's become a giant price tag that people evaluate you. But I don't want to get caught up in all these judgmental mindset. And I just want to choose a place that fits my lifestyle and gives me comfort. Because at the end of the day, I feel like who I'm with in the home is more important than which home I'm living in.
As well, it's very well said. So today we've seen that in Korea, an apartment can be much more than a place to live. It can represent convenience, financial security, and even social status. But as housing becomes increasingly tied to wealth and opportunity, it also raises questions about what makes a home truly valuable. And at the end of the day, perhaps the most important thing isn't the address or the signs of the apartment, but whether it feels like a place you can truly call home. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation. But News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 Korea time with more stories and discussions. Big thanks to Melissa.
Thank you for having me.
And also Chuyeon.
Delighted to be here.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully your dream apartment won't require a dream science bank account. We are News Generation.